Hello, everyone. Get your chips. It's time for Realtor Monica's Tuesdays Tips. Realtor Monica. Now with Agent Thursdays. Hey guys, Realtor Monica here with this week's Realtor Monica's Tuesdays Tips with Agent Thursdays. And today we have a very special interview planned. For those of you that saw last week, we had Ian Patrick as an agent, and this week he's going to be speaking with us more on the lender side. So, what company are you with, Ian?
Thank you so much for having me, Monica.
Yes.
I have really been looking forward.
Yeah, I have been too. Yeah.
And I'm here with Lone Sky Mortgage.
Okay.
This is a new brokerage we launched. We're part of a larger company, and we brokered the loans so that we can offer the most competitive rates and fees
awesome.
in the area. So we are all about just providing the best service as well as very competitive rates and fees.
So, well, that's nice to know. Yeah, very nice to know.
Yeah, we can do some amazing things. So tend to get my foot in the door with a lot of agents by rescuing a lot of loans.
Yeah, yep, this is true.
Not the ideal situation,
right? Not always.
Loans,
yes,
because that typically means that there were some challenges that maybe should have been addressed in the beginning or before getting under contract, which is what I really try to help buyers is be prepared. So when they get into the process, they can enjoy the experience of dreaming a new home, living in the home, and not so much becoming a high stress situation. Yes.
Okay, so right off the bat, then I always tell clients and other agents as their first time homebuyer tips have all said, talk to the lender, try to get pre-approved. If I'm client A and I call and I want to know, well, I'm calling, they told me to call you and get pre-approved. What does that call look like?
That's a great question. The initial phone call, the initial consultation. So that first phone call is usually getting to know each other and finding out. I'll typically ask, what are your goals and what is your situation? Because people from all walks of life coming from, could be international, could be, from another state, they're relocating, could be local, maybe haven't bought or sold a home in many years.
Right.
So it's important for me to get some background information. So the initial phone call is usually background, getting to know the scenario. And as an experienced lender, I will zero in on the things that are important for the loan. So we'll talk about approximately where is your credit, what type of income you receive, what you do for a living. We'll have that conversation. So as someone may be describing their situation and they say, okay, I work and I do a side business and things like that, that triggers for me to think, okay, do we need to see taxes? Does this person have some self-employment income that we can use?
Okay.
Oh, this person works in healthcare. They have, I'm very familiar with how that healthcare income shift differentials and significant overtime might exist. So the lines of questioning in the initial phone call are just to get an idea of where someone may stand for their pre-approval and their income and qualifications.
Okay.
So
all right.
That's the initial call, just to get an idea. Are we ready to begin a pre-approval process?
So for my viewers, it sounds like what you're saying is when they call in, because of your years in the business, you really kind of get them talking, ask them certain questions to get the conversation started, but then you use bullet points, so to speak, in that conversation to know where to go next.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And so that could vary.
Yeah, because you may not want to have that credit pulled initially.
So they don't have to for...
No, an initial consultation or phone call, you don't have to pull the credit.
Right.
The credit is going to be required to complete a pre-approval. So if you want to know truly where you stand, you'll need to get a complete pre-approval from a lender. And for a lender to complete that pre-approval, they really need to have your income documents, really the documents, If the income's very straightforward, like a
Mm-hmm.
salary, like I
Right.
receive X amount a month, then we can go off verbal numbers. Or
Mm-hmm.
if I work 40 hours,
Mm-hmm.
overtime,
Right.
and my rate is this, we can go off verbal to
Right.
kind of begin the pre-approval. But to complete the pre-approval, you absolutely have to have a credit, and you have to have a qualifying credit score. Just to give a little bit deeper into that, you can purchase homes with credit scores as low as 500 with FHA, but that would require a 10% down payment.
Oh, okay.
Until you get to 580. At 580 is the minimum that allows you to do the low down payment, 3.5%. But I always advise, the more you can improve your score, the better,
Right.
because it's going to affect your interest rate.
For sure.
And that's going to cost you, money over time, and sometimes even cost at closing associated with the rate.
Which is what I like to also talk about, because sometimes I might have clients that are just waiting on the interest rates to drop, waiting. However, I just said that in my last reel, actually, that you might be waiting on the interest rates, but then because of your credit score, you don't qualify for those lower interest rates. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Getting really deep into it, they're called loan level pricing adjustments, LLPAs, and these are specific. Your down payment amount, your credit score range, your debt to income ratio, all these factors affect the interest rate.
Right.
So
not just point blank what the interest rate is.
Right. So typically when you see Google or you see the reports of where rates are today, they're using a generic scenario, and it's usually a 20% down, kind of 700 or 740 credit score. So that's what you're seeing when the media is pushing out what the rates are. So that may be drastically different than what someone may actually see.
Yeah.
But the good news now is rates are although they're higher, they are relatively stable at this point. We're not
stable is the word.
We're not seeing big swings
either
direction.
Way. Right.
We're likely going to see this 6 to 7% for the foreseeable year or two.
So you heard it, folks, and that's kind of what we're seeing as well in the data. That's what it's actually showing. So just wanted to lay that out there, because I would hate for a client. I've had clients that have missed out on homes they had really been waiting on, because they wanted to see what the interest rates are going to do this month and wait until this month and see what it does. And they lost the home. And I hated it for them, because I know that it may not have, it still keeps not panning out to what they think. So it's really kind of a tough road, and they have to trust that we know what we're talking about. And we're out there in the thick of it, and we see the day to day. So we actually know what's going on, versus sometimes it can be just a feeling that they may have, You
bring up such a good point with timing in the market. When should I buy? Should I wait for rates to drop?
Right.
These are kind of things that people are thinking. And the truth is it's incredibly hard to time the market.
It is.
Just think about the stock market. If we knew what was going to happen, we could invest, make money.
Right.
But that's not the nature of the markets.
Right.
The markets are dependent on so many economic factors, even international things like wars and things breaking out have impact that are just not foreseeable.
Exactly.
So timing the market there's not a good way to do it. It's very difficult.
It is.
The best time to buy a house is when you need to move.
And that's what I keep going back to, because that is the case. I just say, if this is what you've been looking into for a few years, you feel like the time is right for you, I would say do that. I did know, and I want to ask you a little bit about, sometimes there have been talks of like different plans that may refinance later if within a time frame there's certain interest rates that lower.
Topic as well. We could do a whole podcast on this one.
Okay, I got you.
The ideal time to refinance,
right? Because
generally, people purchasing today with the higher home prices, it's a major challenge to have 20% down.
Right.
Very far fewer people are putting 20% down these days. With FHA loans, you can go as low as 3.5%.
Right.
The veterans, of course, have the 100% loan, so there's zero down.
Right.
There is closing costs though on every loan, whether it's FHA, VA, or conventional. And
Right.
Conventional is typically for high credit, high down payment. There are low down payment conventional options with very high credit, but conventional is also want not only high credit, but it has to be a relatively clean credit history. FHA is very forgiving to the credit. So FHA is a great program. First time home buyers allows them to get into a home with a low monthly payment, low down payment. And it's a great way to purchase a home.
Yeah.
Now, to refinance, you don't want to refinance more than once. Really,
exactly.
Ideally,
I agree.
Some people may need to refi or want to refi to maybe invest. They cash out of a home. They have a lot of equity. That's one scenario. But the most common scenario to refinance is going to be to lower your payment. Yeah. Lower your payment over time. And this is the beauty of owning a home.
Yes,
I tell people all the time. You can lower your payment. You can do a homestead exemption on your primary home. If you're over 65, you can do a senior homestead exemption and dramatically reduce your tax liability, lowering your monthly payment. On top of that, you can eliminate the PMI once your home has gained enough equity. Right. So once you've got 20% equity in the estimated value of the home, you can call your servicer. They can do an appraisal. You can refinance to get rid of that PMI. But the key point for a refinance is an improvement in your rate. Right. And they generally say you want an improvement of 1%. Yes. So if you had a 7 and you can get a 6, then a refinance is probably going to be worthwhile. Yeah. And there's all any smaller than that, and you're gonna in the fees. It just needs to balance. It needs to make sense. There are fees of the transaction when you refinance. Yeah. They are wrapped in the loan amount. So the nice thing about a refinance is you get to skip 2 months of mortgage payment, so you don't have to pay your mortgage for 2 months. And the closing costs of the refinance are put into the new loan amount. So your new loan increases by a few $1,000s. It's not going to be tens of thousands. It's typically a few thousand to cover the closing costs. Then you have a new loan. And sometimes you refinance for a 30-year to get the lowest payment possible. The 30 years are going to allow you to have the lowest payment. Right. But maybe you want to cut some time off on the mortgage. You can do 15, 20, and 25-year even. Okay. So some people will say, I've been paying on my mortgage for a few years. I want to keep it. The time frame I was planning to pay it off. So let me do a 25-year. And on those 15, 20, and 25 years, you can get slightly better rates on those as well. Okay. Higher payment, but a slightly better rate. Right. Well, that's good information. The key point is refinancing to lower your payment over time. Ideally, you can eliminate PMI. Ideally, you can lower your interest rate. You can shop homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance you can change at any time once you own the home. Right. But once your credit has gone up, once you've got better credit, when you've got that mortgage on your credit report, which is a very strong account, and it helps the credit when you pay it on time. Right. Redoing insurance can be wise because you could get better rates once your credit's better. Good tip. Credit affects everything. Yeah, it does. Totally does. Well, let me ask you another question. So if someone calls in and you can just kind of tell from the conversation and certain points they mentioned to you that the credit may not be where it needs to be, do you guys ever give them like a roadmap to get to where they need to be? Absolutely. Okay, good. Thank you for that question because it's probably the most common scenario. Yes, it is. Most people are calling in interested in purchasing. Maybe they've seen a home. Maybe they're thinking of buying. Maybe a lease is coming up. An ending is coming up soon. So where do you start? Where do you go? Where do you know if you don't know? Yes. Because the free credit trackers out there, I'll just name Credit Karma as one that people know that it gives you a general idea what the credit score is, but it's not the same as what the lenders receive. It can be different, but it's a good idea to start. And so, and you may not know that, and that's okay. And that's why it's important to talk to a lender and start the process. But in that scenario where someone says, "Hey, I've had some hits on the credit," okay, not a problem. Let's have a look and see. If you have some idea where your credit score is, if you have a credit monitoring and it says the score is like in the 400s or in the low 500s, I say maybe we don't pull your credit right now, and then I'll give my I call it my credit spiel.
Right.
Just give you what, and I'll tell you this right now. Essentially, you need to understand your credit card utilization.
Mm.
Credit cards, it's in the name. It's the credit card. Generally, to build credit takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
on-time payment history. So people say student loan, cars, and things like that. None of those are better than the other. They just exist. And the data of your on-time payment history with
it
the
all
credit
kind of comes
algorithm,
together.
yes, creates
in
your
the
credit
end.
score.
Okay.
So if you have a late payment and it can crush your credit, a late payment on something,
Yeah.
or maybe a collection
Mhm.
of an account you weren't aware of, or medical collections, something may hit the credit. And how do you counter that?
Right.
Because many people, something hit the credit, they didn't even know it. And how do you counter that? You have to have good, strong accounts, credit card accounts on your credit. You only need one. So you can have multiple. Some people have multiple. But the important thing to understand is utilization. Utilization is the percentage of the limit that you're using monthly. And this data is reported from the statements, your credit card statement. So let's just say I have a credit card. It has a $100 limit, and the statement comes out on the 15th each month. But my payment date might be on the 1st. So let's say I pay my card on the 1st, but then I charge it a $90 purchase. And the statement comes out on the 15th, and it reports to the credit bureaus that I've spent $90 of my $100 limit. I've got a 90% utilization. And this is a negative factor on the credit algorithm.
Oh, okay.
So that's why having high credit card balances can really hurt the credit. But the beauty of that is if you can pay them down aggressively, and I advise everyone to aggressively pay credit cards because it is a high interest debt, and you just don't want to carry that. It's a huge problem in the country right now that we're unbelievable levels
easy to get
of
them, hard to pay them off.
Yes, yes. So paying aggressively towards credit cards and aiming to keep them below 30% of the limit. That's the main point. You want to be under 30% of your limits. Your credit utilization in total under 30% of its total limits, because that's where the credit algorithm starts to view that positively.
Okay.
When you're over 30% and you're 50, 60, 70, 90, 100% utilization, if your credit card is over the limit, now you're at 103, 105% utilization. These are major negatives, and your credit score tanks way down. The good part about it is you can pay it off and it'll come right back.
Okay.
And by keeping it low, your score will continue to increase over time.
Okay.
So having a good credit card account that you're going to pay on time forever,
right?
You're going to keep it for a long time, because the age of accounts is another factor in the algorithm. So you want to have an account that is strong on your credit, that's building you from month to month to month. And the credit card is one of the only accounts that's going to build you. Whether it's a secured card, it has the same impact as a $50,000 limit American Express, a little $300 secured card.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard that.
Effect in the algorithm.
So that is true.
Utilization. So good. It's very important to keep that credit card in good standing. And have a good credit card on your credit profile, because this is going to keep your credit in case something did come up, like a medical collection or something you're unaware of, and it hits your credit. It's not going to ruin you, so to speak. Whereas someone who just doesn't use credit, maybe they say, I pay cash, I don't use credit. Suddenly this bill that you're unaware of is now on the credit, and it's hurt it pretty tremendously. And now your auto insurance,
so you went from no credit to bad credit.
Or just a middle of the road score, because they just don't have much. Maybe it's in the 600s, and then they take a hit.
So it's better to have some credit.
And then it's going to hurt you in many ways, and it costs you to not have a good credit score. Is going to cost you. insurance,
Yep.
your auto,
Yeah.
your homeowners,
Everything really
anything
is
you
based.
finance
Yeah.
is based on the credit.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's so important, and that's such important information. So thank
It
you.
is. And I thank you for coming and giving our viewers this information, because sometimes they just kind of want to know. So, like, what are they going to ask me? As you can see, there are people too. And no need to be afraid of the call. They're going to get you to where you need to be and help you to get in the position to be able to finally get that home that you've been wanting for some time, or that you didn't know you were going to have to move and now you do have to move. What do I do? Well, as soon as you're contemplating it, I would get right on the phone and talk to a lender just to see where you are, because you might think that everything is good, and then they may check and help you to see that you're not exactly where you thought you were, or they can reassure you that yes, you are on the right track and you should qualify, when you get to that point. And so, but definitely an important call to make, guys. So thank you so much, Ian, for coming and just
My
letting us
pleasure.
know
Thank
from a
you.
lender perspective. And I think this is definitely going to help my viewers. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Monica.
All righty. All right. See you next week, guys. Pick up the phone and find your home. Realtor Monica.